Welcome back. We're looking at a Cub Cadet XT2 Enduro Series engine here. That's the SLX 50-inch Cub Cadet. It's got a fuel injected MTD engine on it. It's a 679cc EFI Cub Cadet branded. Been seeing quite a few more and more of these. Now he brought it in because he says that it will start occasionally and it'll run occasionally, but it won't start every time. And if it starts, it won't stay running a lot of times. Well, I tried to start it to bring it in here. I couldn't get it started. I had to turn it over for probably 30 or 45 seconds. It finally fired up, made it almost to the inside of the door and died out again. I had to play with it a little bit, was able to pull it up onto the table. Something's definitely not right. We're gonna figure out exactly what's going on and show you how to fix it. Take this hood off so we can see the engine a little bit better. It's got that clip on the side for the wiring, and then it comes straight up and off. We're going to start it up so I can kind of show you guys what it's doing. Now there is no choke, it's just a throttle. You want to start it on high, and you do have to be sitting on it, so I'm going to push on the seat and push the start button with the brake pushed in and locked in. Not wanting to start. I've got it all the way high. I'm going to go down just a little bit. Nothing at all. Grab a spark tester, see if we're getting spark. Says no spark whatsoever. Try that other side. Zero. It's not getting any spark currently. Why is that? Why was it getting spark when we were going to bring it up here and it's not now? That's a good question. These things are pretty simple as far as the electronics go. They do have a mechanical governor on them, and they're fuel injected through an injection system through here. There's one fuel injection port. They call it a whole unit, and they don't sell this injector actually separate. If you take this bolt out of the top here, there's a T, I think it's a T27. This assembly will come up and out. There's an O-ring where it sits down in there, like a typical injector. And you can make sure that you're getting fuel if you're getting spark and it's not starting. Otherwise, you can bypass all that, and you can spray a little bit of starting fluid down in here, or carburetor cleaner, and see if it starts, you know, once you do that. That's only if you're getting spark. We've checked the spark and confirmed that it's not getting any spark. You can also do that by taking a spark plug out to the side. Grab one so I can better demonstrate. So you can take a spark plug out to the side, plug it in, take a rag or something to insulate yourself so you don't get shocked, and if you hold it to the side to anything metal, to that outside edge. You should be able to see right between the outside and the middle probe, there should be a spark there when it's turning over. That's if you don't have a spark tester. You can also use an inline spark tester. That works also. We know we don't have spark. Definitely not good. If it was on one cylinder or the other, I would say let's pull the spark plugs and see what they look like. In this case, both of them are getting no spark. That means either there's a kill that's not working properly and it's still able to turn over, but it's not starting because of that kill. Otherwise, it's not getting the signal from the control board, or there's something wrong with the board. Electricals on these, couple temperature sensors, and then there's a pickup up top, 2 coils, mechanical governor just like a regular engine. Nothing too majorly overly complicated. They just replace this, you know, this whole assembly here with this one injector replaces the carburetor, and you usually don't have as many issues. Even if your fuel goes bad and stuff like that, a lot of times with the fuel spray, it'll spray it fine enough that it'll be flammable enough to start up. If they get plugged up, that's definitely an issue. You can check the filter. I believe this one is actually in the fuel tank up top. I'm not 100% positive on that. I haven't worked on a ton of these. No spark. In this case, the first thing I'm going to do is check all the grounds. I'm going to check the battery and make sure everything there is good, because a lot of these issues with something like this start with not getting proper voltage or a bad connection somewhere at one of the wiring harnesses, the switch going bad. I mean, there's a lot of different things we see with stuff like this, but it is something that electrical is the first thing you would look at, since both coils are not working. Let's dive a little deeper into that. Let's check the battery voltage. See exactly what we have. 12.46 volts. Should be enough to start it, not exactly high. Says it's a 300 cold cranking amp battery, which is pretty low for an engine of this size. Probably why we get the little bit of delay, that and we've tried to start it a few times. I do still want to check out the ground, which actually the negative comes down and it actually attaches to the frame inside in this case. This is a 10 millimeter on the one side and an 11 on the other. Taking it off, you always take the negative off first. Then you take the positive so you don't spark it back to ground, and you'll put them on opposite of that. Always positive first. That just kind of snaps out to the side. If you push here, it unlatches, and the battery will come straight up and out. The ground wire comes from right there and attaches with a bolt going to the frame on the opposite side. Looks like a 10 millimeter also. I'm gonna get a ratchet and a 3-inch extension. Oh, that was really loose. The bolt goes through the frame down at the bottom through to the other side, and that's what completes the circuit in order to give you power and get that thing started. That's the bolt coming through on the back side. It was loose as all could be. Let's see if that does anything, if that has any change whatsoever, or if it does exactly the same thing. Surely it's never that easy, right? Make sure that all that stuff's kind of tucked out of the way. It seemed like this was kind of what to hit on there. There we go. Make sure these are completely tight. While you're down there, you can also check the positive wire where it attaches to the solenoid. See if that's tight. I felt around down in there, everything felt tight to me. Nice and tight. Keep her back in. Seems to work every time we start it so far. Let's try one more time. Set it there. See if that works. Fires right back up again. It did kind of hesitate a little bit when I first tried to start it. We're gonna recommend replacing this battery since it is a 300 cold cranking amp battery and it is from 2019. Usually don't get that much life out of these stock batteries to begin with, and with the EFI system they are very picky about the voltage they get and the ground they get. That ground was at least a half a turn before it was completely tight. That's where we were probably losing, and it wasn't getting spark because of that. If you are getting spark and you don't know where your fuel came from, you can drain the entire fuel system If you take it off here again, you can spray it through there, or you can take it or siphon it out through the tank up top here. That should make it easy. And this one's nice because you can see down into the tank to the bottom to see if there's anything floating or there's any water or anything. If there is, drain that fuel before you do anything else. Spark and you have fuel, the fuel could be extremely bad. That is possible if you've got a bunch of water in it to why it wouldn't be starting. You could have issues with the start switch. We see a lot of those fail. I've seen, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 start switches that are these push button starts that have failed. Also the fuel pump, if you're not getting a good fuel supply. Again, you can test that with the starting fluid or the carburetor cleaner in the intake. If it starts, you know you're not getting fuel, or you know the fuel's no good. Safety switch in the back could be bad. I see these with they've got a double kill to make sure you can't bypass the seat switch. If that goes bad on you, you'll kind of get this same situation to where it'll turn over and everything, you just won't get any spark. It kills it out because it thinks you're not on the seat. Check that out right in the middle of this connector. I'll show you a little closer. Take the tab and you just pull it out, and then the whole connector will come straight down and off. And there's a safety down in here. What that does is that makes sure that you cannot disconnect this plug in order to try to defeat the seat switch system on it. It's like a little spring. I'd take it apart, but it's like a little spring that sits down, and if it's not plugged in, it will ground those out. Make sure it's plugged in. You can take this seat switch out and bypass it for the time being if you're testing. Just kind of take the tabs and pop them on each side. Pop them in, and then you move the whole seat switch down. Oop. Just fell out nice and easy on me. That's good. They usually are a little bit more difficult. They come down at an angle like this and out. So you've got to take it out like such. It's your seat switch. That's supposed to keep it from moving. It never does. It'll slide right up in there where we need it to for these purposes. If you're to have that plugged in and push the switch, for testing, you know that you're good to go. We'll start this a few more times. I'm going to just tape that switch closed. I want to make sure that's the only issue we have. Do not leave this way. This is not to be operated with the seat switch like this. It's good. Doesn't have to be all the way pushed, just mostly. That looks to have solved our issues. I'm gonna talk to the customer, tell him what's going on, see if we can get him to let us replace the battery since it is from 19. If you're needing to take a look at the injector, this is a T25 on top. Screw comes out. Make sure everything's off up top, and you can actually take that injector straight out. Make sure this is all blown off. I kind of blew off on it once. Do that again. Make sure nothing gets down in there. Just kind of blew off the backside also, where the actual injector is. If this O-ring's bad, it'll pull air and it won't run right. I usually put just a little bit of a good grease on there when I put it back in. To test this, now we've got the seat switch bypassed. You can take your spark plug wires off if you'd like to be a little bit more safer. If you do this when it's cold and you turn the key on, you can actually see what the state of the fuel spray is when you try to start it. You can see it's got a really good spray to it as it's going. That injector is working properly, it's working good. It has a pickup that sits on the flywheel that tells it when to release fuel in order for this to be timed correctly. That's all working. We know we're getting a pulse to it here because it's opening and it's allowing fuel through. I'll get a little grease for that. I got a lot of grease for this, way too much. Put it back down in and smoothly. That's just to check and make sure that you're electronically getting voltage here to let fuel through. Number one, and then number two, that the fuel is actually good. You can look at the fuel, see exactly what it looks like. Doesn't look bad, looks pretty clear. Just tightens up good. This fuel line will come off. It's got a clip, I think, that goes through, and there's two tabs on the back side. So if you were to pull that off, this line would come off, and you could actually hold this to the side and see if you were getting voltage to the pump and see if your pump was working properly that way also. This just has a shutoff that only allows the fuel to go through when it gets that pulse from the pickup. The electrical here, blow everything out, make sure the connections are good. Dielectric grease never hurts. That's really all there is to it. That and the start switch and a couple safety switches, brake switch and seat switch. Just goes to show that that was definitely the issue. We've started it enough to prove that. He said it would start, you know, maybe once if you could get it to start. And we showed that as we were driving it in. It wouldn't stay running for long. Hopefully that helps you if you're having an issue with one of these newer EFI MTD model engines. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.